Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Well, hello and welcome to Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Now, on today's show, we'll be talking about why content is king, along with a whole host of other things, what you should be doing in your business to make it grow, to make it more successful. My guest on today's show is Jim McLaughlin, Managing Director of Axial Limited. Jim, lovely to have you back. You've been on the program before.
I have, Steve. It's always a delight to be on the program.
And always a pleasure to have you with us. We've put up looking at content is king when it comes to marketing, but we're going to be talking about a whole range of different things today. Just give us a brief summary of what we're going to be talking about.
So we're really going to be talking, Steve, around some of the key trends in business developments. So we're going to talk about why content is king now. We'll talk a little bit about why having subject matter experts is essential for most businesses, not necessarily all, but for most businesses. We'll talk a little bit around CRM systems, so customer relationship management systems, and why so few companies are happy that they get the value that they need and that they get all of the functionality that they need from their CRM system. And we'll talk, if we have time, we'll talk about why honesty pays when we pitch our products and services, which I know, Steve, is not an issue that I need to discuss in any detail with you yourself.
As honest as the day is long.
And even longer, But I think for anyone who's involved in sales and marketing, I think that's a key issue, why honesty pays.
What do you think the core problems that businesses have at the moment when it comes to marketing their wares? Is it because we're not doing it properly, we're not doing it effectively, that we're saying the wrong things, we're not having the right tools to actually promote and to market ourselves? What do you think the problems that you see as Axial?
Well, I guess I don't know that I would describe it as the problems that people have. Clearly, for some people, any situation can be a problem. But I think that probably the key issue is that the world has changed and it continues to change. So lots of the tools that we used to use for marketing are either no longer valid or they're no longer enough. So, for example, one of the key services that my company offers is telemarketing, and we've got some fantastic people doing telemarketing, and we can deliver great results from telemarketing. But we can't deliver just using telemarketing the level of results that we did 5 or 10 years ago. And why is that? Because the world has changed, because everything really now is governed in marketing, is governed around the internet, and it's governed around social media, and that brings us back to that issue of why content is king. But the key issues are all around that shift and how well or how poorly we adapt to that shift, and allied to that, the issue always of how do we manage all of our customers and how do we manage all of those people that we would like to be our customers in the most effective way, so that we can get the right messages to them through the right media at the right time, and that's where the CRM system comes in.
Do you think that many businesses get it wrong because what they're doing, and I suppose we should all be doing this, but we are selling all the time? Is that the issue, or is it the fact, yes, we are selling, but the way that we're selling? You've got the direct sales, do you want to buy this, do you want to buy this, do you want to buy this? Yeah. And then you've got that kind of indirect way of selling where you're saying, you're building more of a relationship with your customer that they will then come to you to buy.
Absolutely, and I think that is really driven by the changes that the internet and social media have brought. Because at one time it was sufficient for us to say we've got a great product, we've got a great solution, we've got a great system, and it can do great things for you. But because there is so much information available on the internet, on our own company websites, and crucially on sites where people can review the products and the services that they've bought. And we all do this, Steve. If you're going to go and buy a television, or I'm going to go and buy a fridge or a washing machine, we don't just go and look at what Samsung are saying about their televisions, or Sony are saying about their televisions, or what somebody like Hotpoint are saying about their washing machines. The thing that we all do is we go and we see, what do our peers think about these things? What are people saying about this particular television?
Independent reviews, isn't it?
Independent reviews.
And I suppose 10, 20 years ago, independent reviews were harder to come by. But today, anybody can put a review up there, calling it independent. They can put that on the internet, and it becomes readily accessible.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that has quite a number of implications. One of those implications is, because there's so much information there, people are actually bombarded. A, they've got ease of access to information, and B, they're bombarded with information from lots and lots of different sources. So people are less willing to listen to me when I want to tell them how great the services are that Axial offers. They're much more likely to listen to one of their peers or to a trusted advisor. And that issue of being a trusted advisor is one that becomes increasingly important.
So what do we do then? I mean, how do we resolve this? Because, I mean, the big headline on the programme is content is king. And we're working our way through that. But if content is king, what kind of content are we talking about? Are we talking about independent content that's sitting on the internet and on our website? Is it content that our customers will find useful? We see a lot of this on the internet now, the top 5 this, the top 7 this. And is it that kind of content we should be thinking about? Are we looking for useful content that our customers can use?
I think that's precisely the issue. So let me state first of all that most of what I say is more relevant to a B2B context, so business to business, rather than a B2C context, business to consumer. So my business and my customers are all in the B2B world. So they're selling products, services, solutions to other businesses. So they're selling enterprise solutions. So I think most of what I say would be relevant in a B2C world, but I think it's important to say that really I'm talking business to business here. So you asked me what kind of content. So firstly, what people aren't interested in hearing is how we've got this fantastic system or this fantastic solution that's the best in the world, because that's what everyone's going to tell them. So people don't believe that. So they're looking for that independent review, that peer review. They're looking for a trusted advisor. What do they want to see from me? What do they want to see from my customer? They want to see information that's going to be of help to them, that's going to be of use to them, that isn't going to try and drive them in the first instance to buy the product or the service that I'm selling, but will give them an idea of why should they be interested in this type of product or service. What are the key benefits that this product or service will deliver to them?
Is this positioning ourselves then as an expert in that field? And I suppose to a certain extent, when we start our businesses, we are drawn to the business that we end up working in because we are interested in it, and therefore we become expert in it. So is it sharing the information that probably excited us initially?
It is absolutely doing that. It is absolutely doing that. And that really takes us to a level where content is king, but what we do with that content is absolutely vital as well. So what I say to my clients who want to talk to me about business development is, before you think about going out and selling to people, first of all, you need to have a content strategy, and that content strategy is going to be around producing information that is of interest and of value to your target audience, to your customers and your prospects. The second part of that is you need a distribution strategy. So what are you going to do with that content, and what are you going to do with that information to get it out into the broader world? And there's a whole range of ways that you can do that.
This is the likes of CRM systems, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, isn't it?
Potential. Well, who you're going to send it to is going to be is
the first step.
Is going to be facilitated via your CRM system. But independently of that, it's what are the media that you'll use to get that information out there? And that could be, depending on the business you're in, it could be television advertising, it could be newspaper and magazine advertising, it could be trade press advertising. But all of those areas of advertising are becoming less and less important as part of the overall mix because of the changes that the internet brings.
Is it a case of doing a bit of everything and a lot of it?
I don't think you could say it's a case of doing a bit of everything. As with all of these things, it's really a case of understanding who your target audience is and where do they look for information. So if they never look at newspapers and they don't look at television to get the information that they need for their small business, then that's probably not going to be a place that you're going to look to put that valuable information out in. You're probably more likely to look at, where would this sit on my website? Should I have it, or should I write content for a blog, for example? If I write content for a blog, what do I need to do with that content so that I can use it in other ways, so that I can purpose it for other distribution media? Repurposing, exactly.
Same information but spread right across the board.
Same information, but presented in different ways, in different sizes, dependent on the medium, the medium that's most appropriate to distribute it in.
Well, very interesting, because I mean we've seen lots of examples of that in the southeast, where there is, you know, we've got some of these radio stations that seem to have a very high ABC1, and there are a lot of high-tech companies that are using some of these particular radio stations to promote their products, be it accounting products, be it technology products. We'll talk more about that in just a few moments' time. Jim McLaughlin is my guest on today's show. He's the Managing Director of Axial Limited. A fascinating insight in how you go about actually setting up the cell. How do you go out there and market your brand, your product, the information that you have within your company? Is it the information that you're trying to sell? And because you sell that information, and when I say sell, I don't mean physically for money, but what you're doing is that you're actually giving that information to draw people in to purchase your product. It's all to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. Now, last week's program was a cracking program, which kind of ties in with this week's one. We had a great guest on the program. Her name was Sally Hindmarsh. We were talking all about what you need to do when you're actually when you're standing face to face to your customer. How do you do a presentation? How do you get your point across? That's what we were talking about last week. It was a great show, and Sally employs a number of actors, and they will, or actors, lovely, they will come into your organisation and they will give you the techniques that you use to actually present your ideas, to present your brand, present your product to either internal staff or to potential customers as well. We talked a little bit about what you should be doing with PowerPoint if you are an organisation that uses PowerPoint but does it willy-nilly. Are you one of these companies that does death by PowerPoint? Do you stand up there? Do you read the slides? Do you find standing up in front of a group of people, a room of people, do you find that very difficult? I think a survey came out once that said most people would rather die than give a public presentation, which when you just step back for a moment, that is pretty severe, isn't it? So Sally Hindmarsh on the program last week. It was a fascinating show. If you haven't watched it yet, I do highly suggest that you go to our website and you watch the catch-up page and you find out more about the program. But just to give you a bit of a teaser, here's what's happened on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. On today's show, we're going to be talking about having impact and influence when talking to others. Our guest on today's show, you had a little sneak preview of her there, is Sally Hindmarsh. She's the Managing Director of Partners With You.
We have a team of professional actors who work with people in business to help them to look, sound and feel more confident. I think all of us have moments where we lack confidence, where we feel less confident than we would like. And to be able to use techniques that will help you to look and sound more confident makes a huge difference to your ability to be effective in your job. People will make assumptions about your ability to do your job based on the way you look and speak. There has been a move to a more macho behaviour in the office.
We seem to be more aggressive in business now, don't we?
And certainly in the 80s there was that marvellous moment where you were measured by your ability to be at your desk, and the more aggressive you were, the better you were. We as individuals, male or female, need to make a lot more decisions a lot more quickly, a lot more often. And that creates conflict, and conflict is something that most of us don't deal well with. So we now know that there is some science behind the way we feel, which is if you sit up, stand up and feel more confident, then it will have an effect on your ability to communicate and get your point across. So you want to imagine that you're wearing a little bolero jacket and someone comes from behind and just gives it a little tug. Not so that you're sitting upright like you're in the army, but just pulls your chest open a little. If you can breathe well, you're going to be heard better. You're also going to get more oxygen going to your brain. The more oxygen going to your brain, the easier it will be to think on your feet. All of those are things that you need in those moments when you feel less confident than you want to. So just by sitting or standing positively, you will increase your ability to look confident, and you will begin to feel more confident. I'm a big believer in using things like affirmations. So affirmations are positive statements about yourself that you believe in. So they have to be about now. So I am a good presenter, not I'm going to become a good presenter. They have to be about you. And they have to be positive. So I'm a better presenter than him isn't a good affirmation. If you are acting it, you will come across as being less authentic and sincere and believable than if you're not. And for a lot of us, because we're thrown into meetings and we don't have time, there is a belief that you can create the PowerPoint slides and you'll use those as the handout, and you'll also use them as your notes. We do rely on PowerPoint, and I think for a long time it was the crutch that supported all presentation. I think we imagine that the people we're going to talk to are people that we've never met in any other part of life. I think we think that if you become a business director, you suddenly use a different vocabulary. I think we want to look more intelligent, more impressive than we feel. I don't know, but I think you assume that important people use big words and complicated language. I do breathing exercises because I breathe quite shallowly, and so
breathing from the diaphragm,
being able to breathe from the diaphragm helps in all sorts of ways. But I think if you don't present very often, it's very easy to just think, well, I talk, so I'll just stand up. And we've all been to events where you can't quite hear what they're saying because they're not quite projecting terribly well, or they're mumbling. My name's Sally Hindmarch, and I run a company called Partners With You, and my key takeaways would, when you're presenting, remember that the audience is just like you. So use words and terminology that you and they will understand without a dictionary. Work on your voice beforehand so that your muscles of your mouth, your tongue and your lips are working so that they can hear what you've got to say. Use your eye contact so that they're listening to what you've got to do. And my final tip would be stand up. Stand up or sit up straight so that you look alert and interested.
Great show, actually. If you do get a chance to watch it, Sally Hindmarch, Managing Director of Partners With You. Really good show. If you have to give regular presentations, if you need a little bit of advice how to prepare yourself, maybe you don't give regular presentations. Maybe you find yourself in that situation, maybe once in a blue moon, where somebody says to you within your organisation, look, you've got to give a presentation on this. If you want some sound advice on how to approach it, then do watch that programme on Business Connections Live. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Jim McLaughlin, Managing Director of Axial Limited. Jim, we were just kind of talking about the content and where people will see the content. There are so many diverse places that content can go to and that our customers will go to get the content. What do you is there one that is more important than the others, or depending on who our customer is, do they all carry the same weight?
Well, I think the key point that you've made there, Steve, is depending on who our customer is. So the key issue always comes back to how well do I understand my target audience? Because if I understand my target audience, I'll start to have a good idea of the kind of forums that they're likely to use. So if I'm working, if my company is working with big companies that are selling to other big companies, one of the key areas for us would be LinkedIn, because the kind of people that they'll want to talk to will be in LinkedIn forums.
Is LinkedIn, in your opinion, is it a platform that companies can seriously use for prospecting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that we do for our clients is when we're helping them with business development campaigns and lead generation campaigns, what we used to do would be we would agree with them a specification for the type of person that they wanted to speak to. So what kind of company do they work in? Where are these companies? What size are the companies? Within the companies, what kind of individual do you want to speak to? So we would get a profile of that, and we would go to a list to a list provider, and we would purchase a list that matched that specification. We haven't done that probably for 3 or 4 years. So now what we do is we'll take that specification and we'll give it to one of our researchers, and our researcher will create a much more targeted list from the web, and they'll use a number of different sources, but the key source that they'll use is LinkedIn.
Do you think we get the etiquette right when we're communicating with people via LinkedIn? LinkedIn, of course, there's a lot of people go on there. There is a danger sometimes with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn have done something about it recently where it was becoming the professional's Facebook. Look what I had for dinner today. And really, I'm not that interested. But the other thing that I have seen with LinkedIn is that people say that they are open to business conversations, and then when you contact them, they're not, because they see it as Facebook nearly. Do you think that's an issue when it comes to using LinkedIn like that?
I wouldn't see that as an issue that just relates to LinkedIn. I think that's going to relate to everything. And the key issue is always is, now, if you want to engage someone in a dialogue, you have to give them a reason to believe that they'll derive value from that dialogue. And that brings us back again to the content is king, and creating the kind of content that the people that you want to speak to will view as valuable and will view as worthwhile reading, so that you create a perception of yourself as an expert in a particular area and as someone who can be trusted to give an unbiased view. Now, if when I want to contact someone, whether it's via LinkedIn or whether it's another way, if they've got an idea of who I am or who my client is, they're much more likely to be open to having that discussion that you talked about on LinkedIn. If, however, I try and contact them and they don't know me from Adam, and I'm not giving them a reason in my invitation to engage in a dialogue, I'm not giving them a reason to see that they'll get value out of this, then the likelihood is they're going to say, well, what's in it for me?
All right, so that's kind of LinkedIn then to a certain extent, and using that to maybe create databases of relevant customers. Yep. Second largest search engine on the internet, of course, is going to be YouTube, owned by Google, of course. So now you need content for that. So what about, how do we transfer that? Because to a certain extent, LinkedIn, yes, we can use video on there, but a lot of it, you've got the pulses where you can go on and you can write, you can actually get your thoughts out there. How important do you think video is when it comes to content online? I think video is increasingly important. I think there is nothing at the moment. There is nothing like video to create a sense of an immediate connection and an immediate contact, and to create a sense of who am I? Because typically the content that you'll create for YouTube is going to include someone from the company that wants to sell the product or service. It won't always do that. Sometimes it might be an informative thing that's done through some kind of animation, but if you look at the videos on YouTube, typically it would be someone like you or me who would be giving a presentation on a particular product or a particular solution that delivered value. And one of the key things there is making sure that that's kept brief,
because another aspect of the volume of information that's available to people today is that their attention span gets shorter and shorter. Are you paying attention at the moment, Steve?
I am,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why I was hesitating, because I think I disagree with you.
Okay.
Am I allowed?
Steve.
I should never disagree with a guest, but I do. You see, I think that content, when we're using video, and any content that we provide and put online, and shoot me down if you think I'm wrong, which you will do, is while the attention spans are getting shorter, I will still go home tonight and I will watch an hour and a half programme and I will be engaged by it. Mm-hmm. Surely content then from business owners should... The reason people disengage with content online is because a lot of it is rubbish. And that's reason. So if I'm making a 90-second piece, it is easier to make a 90-second piece that will engage a member of the audience. We're doing a programme here that lasts an hour. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to think that when they see Jim McLaughlin and Steve Hyland on the TV, on Business Connections Live, that what they're doing is that they're engaging with us, and they'll engage with us for an hour. So surely the aim is to make the content engaging. Brevity is one thing, and yes, that is one way. Again, if I'm holding my breath for 90 seconds, then somebody might watch 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, isn't it all about the engagement? If you make it interesting enough for me to watch, isn't that what you're trying to achieve?
It is all about the engagement. It is all about the engagement.
So what does that mean? Are you agreeing or disagreeing with me about the brevity? That's what I want to know.
Well, in my experience,
yes,
Steve,
sir.
in my experience, if I want to engage someone, I have to catch their attention in a very short span.
Which I agree with. First 5 seconds,
absolutely.
Even less. Catch their attention.
So let me give you two examples of that. Let me give you two examples of that. So one of the ways that you can catch people's attention is send them an email. And typically, if I receive an unsolicited email, I won't even look at that unsolicited email. It will go immediately into the bin. It may not always go into the bin because there may be a subject line that catches my attention and says, read this. Now, if that subject line has caught my attention, I will look at the email. My experience, and the experience from many, many email campaigns that I've been involved in, is I now have 2 or 3 small paragraphs maximum in that email to get my message across. Because if someone looks and they see a whole page of information, they won't read that information.
But what about internet marketeers who do long form?
Okay, so let's come. We'll come on to that.
All right,
because there again we're talking about.
I'm not being awkward.
No, I don't.
Because you said engagement's important.
Absolutely.
And I think engagement is.
Let's come back also. Let's come back also to the videos. If you go to the videos on YouTube, what's the average length of a video on YouTube?
Average length on YouTube, the average length is about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
About 2 minutes. So,
because all the marketeers that are out there, the kids that have come out of university, are saying that it is all about brevity. We have short attention spans, and that's why and YouTube's analytics are geared towards short form video. They're geared towards Nikki and Sammy holding their breath. I think YouTube is a great technical platform for delivering video on. I think it actually plays against businesses.
So here's where I'll disagree with you, because I don't think it plays against businesses.
Sit back.
I think it gives a platform and an opportunity, and that longer piece that you spoke about.
Aggressive there, yeah.
That longer piece that you spoke about.
Sit back.
And Steve, you know me well enough to know the last thing I am is aggressive. Passionate, perhaps, not aggressive. Not aggressive.
Yeah, we just keep cutting your head off of it.
It gives us a platform. It gives us a platform that enables us, perhaps, to hook people in to that longer piece of information.
Yeah.
And that longer piece of information typically will be educational, and it has to deliver value. So it has to be something that perhaps gives people tips. It tells them maybe what best practice is in a particular area of their business, but it's something that allows me or my client to demonstrate expertise. Now, I need to earn the right to have someone pay attention to my expertise and to believe that they'll get value from it.
I think we are actually agreeing. I think what you need is there are different tools. It's like not all the tools that you use in business you can't use one tool to do everything. And I think to attract somebody's attention as a bit of a taster, as a warmer, then the short form video, the 2-minute video that is the taster video that draws the client in, I think has an absolute working place, because you've got to engage them in 2 minutes, because that is your water cooler pitch.
Absolutely.
But I also think, me personally, myself, I think there is a real place for long form, and I think long form is traditional. It's nearly traditional television. It's what TV is all about. We watch long form all the time.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and I do think you're right. Short form is very important. I think within a campaign, what companies need to do, they need to have short form to attract, and then long form to actually give detail.
And that comes back to the different media and the different outlets that are available to us to put our message across. So, for example, that long form in written form, that might be the blog. So you write a blog piece, or it might be a white paper, because you might have a technology subject that demands 3 pages or 5 pages or 10 pages, depending on the depth of the depth of that technological subject. But there will still be a place for the tweet that says, this is what this white paper says, or this is what this blog post says. Click here to see the white paper, or to see the blog post. Here's a 2-minute video on YouTube that tells you this is just an overview of a subject that is of really deep importance to you. If you want to see more, here's the long form video. Here's how you can find the long form video. So I don't think that we're disagreeing with each other.
I don't think it was going to come to blows there at all, actually. Jim McLaughlin is my guest. He's the Managing Director of Axial Limited. He's my guest on today's show, and we're talking about really when it comes to content. Now, if you disagree with what you've heard, you can always let us know. You can always drop us an email or whatever. More to come from Jim McLaughlin in just a few moments' time here on Business Connections Live. It wasn't going to come to blows then, but it's a very interesting area, because when we talk about the likes of, just briefly, when we talk about the likes of YouTube is actually, the analytics within YouTube are geared towards short form video. And if a company puts a long form video on there, the analytics of YouTube, while, as I said, technically it's a great platform to deliver the content on, the analytics will work against it, because YouTube will say, right, key business people have gone to that website, they've looked at it people have looked at it for only a minute.
Yeah.
And your target audience may look at it for half an hour. But because more people have just popped in because they weren't certain what it was, the analytics within YouTube will mark you down. And I think that's a real issue. And I think business owners have got to realise that they won't sell from YouTube. And sometimes they won't even inform from YouTube, because they'll be caught up in the noise.
Absolutely. Are we on air just now?
Yeah, we're still on air.
We are on
still.
Air. So and again, I absolutely don't disagree with you. But I think that video and television they're one channel. And there are other channels as well. And for me, one of the really instructive things has been over the years that if we want to get messages across by email, those emails have become shorter and shorter and shorter. And quite often, they'll then have a link to something else that gives the long form. But if I know that if someone receives an email that fills their screen, they don't think, oh, this looks interesting. Typically, they go to delete straight away.
We'll talk about CRMs in just a moment with Jim McLaughlin. That's what we're going to talk about next, because how do you go about constructing those emails, putting them together to make them powerful? If you're enjoying today's show, thank you very much indeed. It's always wonderful to have you with us. Let me ask you this question. You're watching Jim today, and you're watching myself, and of course what we're doing, we're presenting, we're putting this to you, we're putting out the different questions that we're saying here, but we're doing it in a particular style. Now, you saw what happened just there. I had a differing view. What would you do if you were in that particular environment and it was an interviewer that you didn't know, that you were talking about your particular business, and the interviewer was to come back and ask you a question and put you on the spot? How would you handle it? Would you handle it as well as Jim did? Jim said something, I went back and I said I disagreed with him. What would you do in that situation? Have you ever found yourself where you've been talking to somebody on the radio in an interview and they've come from a different angle because they're looking for a different perspective of the story that you're talking about? What about when it comes to if you're doing a TV interview, a radio phone-in? How do you find out how you would react in that particular situation? Well, a lot of our guests, a lot of our clients, our customers, they've come to us and they've said, look, we want to have that real world experience of how to handle an interview on the TV, on the radio, how to deliver a piece to camera. Now, if you've found yourself in that situation before and you're thinking to yourself, I need training like that, well, here at Business Connections Live, we open up our studio. We'll give you that opportunity to find out exactly what it's like, and we'll put you in that real media environment where you can find out the solution of how you should handle the media. It's a course that we run. It's a one-day course here at Business Connections Live. You can come into the studio and we will talk about we'll do a 5-minute interview with you on the air. You'll do a piece to camera, and we'll also do a radio phone-in show. And we will put you under a lot of pressure. Now, one company that came in and joined us was a company called Iris. They're one of the largest accounting software companies in the UK. They came in and we had their team in with us for a day. And we asked them at the end of the day what they thought of our how to handle the media training.
I'm James Griffin from Iris Software, and my team have just completed the How to Handle the Media workshop. It was a really great course, it was really fun, and it was a really unique way for them to polish their presentation skills and learn how to answer difficult questions under pressure. So I'd highly recommend this to anybody that values those skills and really wants a great day out with their team.
It is an absolutely fascinating day. If you do want to find out more details about that, all you've got to do is contact us here at Business Connections Live. Here we go. Now, you can email us, of course, at studio@businessconnectionslive.com. Or if you want, and this is probably the best way, because what each of these courses, we tailor-make them for the individual organisation that we are training on that particular day. You can talk to us on 01784 256 777. You can talk to myself, Steve Highland, or to Linda Bazan, and we will tailor fit the training course so it's exactly what your organisation needs. I'll tell you what comes out of these particular courses as well, for that matter, is sometimes you can see the holes in your media, in your whole media campaign relationships that you have with the press. Sometimes what will come up during the day will be maybe a question that will be asked repeatedly, and you end up realizing you don't have a clear, concise, proper answer to it. And that means that then as a team you can go away and you can actually build an answer that is the right answer. So do come on one of our media training courses. They're called How to Handle the Media. And if you do want to follow our stream of consciousness, of course, BCL Business TV. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Jim McLaughlin. He's the Managing Director of Axial Limited. While that little video was on, he gave me a wallop. That's not true, actually. Jim, we've been talking about content is king, and we've been talking about long form, short form. We've been talking about social media. We've talked about the importance of having the content.
Yeah.
But what do you do to get it out there? We've got social media. Do you think for B2B that things like Twitter and Facebook, those kind of platforms, are they as relevant as we all think they are, or we're told they are?
I think again it comes back, Steve, to are they relevant? Depends on your target audience. The only way you'll find out if they're relevant is by trying them. Twitter can be very relevant in terms of sending people links, as you do very, very successfully with Business Connections Live. Here's a link that will show you how to watch the show. Mm-hmm. If you've got a link to some information that can be of value, that can be really great. For most of my customers, Facebook is not. Most of my customers would not consider Facebook to be an important platform for them, but some of them do. And it's going to come back again to what kind of messages do you want to get out there about what kinds of products and services. And I think it's the same with all the different channels. For our customers, the most important social media channels are absolutely LinkedIn, and probably probably increasingly YouTube. I would see those as the most important social media channels. But that's not for every customer. You know, other customers find that Twitter is a great way for them to keep in touch with their followers and their audience and their potential customers. It really all depends. Depends on what the message is and who you want to get that message to.
What about blogging then? We touched on it earlier on. How important do you think blogs are, and what are you looking for? Are you looking to blog independently, or are you looking to be a guest blogger on a high-profile blogger site? What are you looking for?
Well, again, I think both of those can be of great value. Typically, when we're dealing, for example, with technology companies, they find that blogs are a very, very successful way to get out that long-form information that you spoke about earlier on. So, not the small bite of information, but to actually touch on a deeper topic. And it could be, for example, about how the industry is being regulated. It could be about how it's becoming increasingly important for software developers to deliver software that has been independently audited, so that the customer knows that they can be confident that software will be fit for purpose and it won't cause more problems than it solves. So if you've got big, deep topics like that, a blog can be a great place to discuss those, and B, to invite other people to come in on the conversation.
CRM, customer relationship management, or managers, the software that's out there. We hear stories of the likes of Infusionsoft, or as it's affectionately known, Confusionsoft, because of its complexity and what it can do.
Yeah.
We've got MailChimp, we've got Aweber, which are autoresponders to all intents and purposes. But there are a number, ACT, what's the other one that's out there as well?
Goldmine.
Yeah, so there are a lot of CRM systems that are available.
And an increasing number of people are actually using LinkedIn as a CRM system.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh. So do they have a place, or are we just using them to do mail shots? I mean, is there more to a CRM system to do the mail shot?
There absolutely can be very much more to a CRM system than doing a mail shot. So CRM systems, and the name says it all, it's the customer relationship management. How do I manage that relationship in the most effective way possible? So CRMs now account for something like $20 billion of revenue a year.
Gosh.
So enormous sums of money are being spent on CRMs. What they can do in an ideal world is give a client the ability to have a holistic view of their client base, and just as importantly, of their prospect base. And one of the key things that a CRM system enables companies to do is to follow the whole journey from the first contact with a potential customer right through to that contact becoming a customer or deciding not to become a customer. And it gives the ability to maintain a history there that everyone within the organisation can see, and that of itself, I think it self-evidently can deliver tremendous value to an organisation.
In your experience, how many businesses do you think that you've come across actually do use it to its maximum capability?
I would say, if I was doing that on a percentage basis, perhaps somewhere between 0 and 5%.
You're joking me.
No.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's for a number of reasons, but the key reason is people frequently say to me, I'm looking at this CRM system, that CRM system, the other. Which CRM system would you recommend me to take? And the answer I would always give is, in most cases, I don't believe that the success or otherwise of the CRM system is to do with the technology or the software that you deploy. It's really to do with the company's philosophy and the practices that it puts in place around the CRM system.
Wow. So we're really thinking about how we're using it, aren't we? It's a tool that is going to be integral to the way your business runs, not a tool that your business uses to run.
Absolutely. So most of the time that CRM systems don't work well, it's not a fault of the technology, although the technology can be difficult to use depending on the degree of complexity that you want it to deliver. But it's not really about the technology. The one failing that makes people lose faith in a CRM system is it doesn't have the right up-to-date information. And the only way that a CRM can have the right up-to-date information is if everyone that uses that CRM system knows the rules for what information needs to be collected, where it needs to be put, the format that it needs to be put in, and they understand that they need to do it themselves. So most of the people that complain about the fact that a CRM system is no use, it doesn't do what I want it to do, are the very people that don't put the information in. And as in everything else, if you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. If you don't put all the right information in, how can you expect it to give you the right answers when you go and ask it a question?
Do you think the CRM industry as such, really to a certain extent, don't market themselves in such a way? I'm sure if you go onto the likes of MailChimp and Aweber and Infusionsoft, they'll all tell you what you should be doing, but there is this fundamental thing that people see it first off as a way to automatically send thousands of emails to sell you something.
Yep.
And I suppose the thing to do is it's going back to this old thing again about engaging with your customers, isn't
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so and I think that you put your finger on it there. If you believe that it's about sending out emails to sell something, you're not likely to get the greatest success that you could, because most people that receive an email that they're not expecting don't buy something from it. If they receive an email that tells them something interesting, that delivers value to them, that tells them the law is about to change in this particular area, and it could be, for example, in corporate governance, and if you don't make sure that you remain on the right side of the law, you'll have a big problem in running your company. And it could be a piece of technical information as well. So sending out those emails should always deliver value. They should always be brief messages that say, here's something that we believe will be of interest and of value to you. And if you do that in a genuine way, then your target audience over a period of time will come to the realisation, yeah, there is value in these emails, it's worth reading them, it's worth clicking through to more in-depth information, and that's the way that you can establish yourself as a trusted partner that people will want to buy from.
What about the style of what you're sending out there? People have a real problem. Both of us have talked about this, where you see it on websites where the website is all about me. It's me, 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 me. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. It's not about you, you, you. And do you find that sometimes people will be sending out emails that the whole tone of the email, the voice of the company is not represented as well as it should do?
Very much so. You will recall, Steve, that one of the previous times I was here, the subject of our discussion was talking your customer's language. And talking your customer's language means making sure that you're talking to them in a way that they're likely to be receptive to. But most of all, it means talking to them as the most important person in my business's life. If I go out and all I want to do is tell people what a fantastic company Axial is and what fantastic services we offer, their most likely response is, that may be true, but everybody that sells business development services tells me they're fantastic. So if I'm going to give them a piece of information around that, I'll have to give them some kind of credibility around that. And typically that credibility will come from, not from me, it'll come from the customers who've said, I worked with Axial and it was a great experience. But for me to come and tell you, we do a fantastic job,
well, you're not going to say anything different, are you?
None of us is. None of us is.
And that is the thing. All right, well, we've kind of looked at CRMs, and we've got a few other topics that we've got here that we should be able to fit in. There's one thing I do want to talk about honesty pays when we pitch our products and services.
Yeah.
And if we can, we'll talk about that in just a few moments' time. Are you honest when you're pitching your brand, when you're pitching your product? If you're not, maybe you need to step back a bit. And I think the trouble is sometimes when we pitch our brand and our product, it isn't a case really about whether we're being honest or not. I think there's nearly an element of self-deception taking place as well. So we'll talk more to Jim in just a few moments' time. My guest on today's show is Jim McLaughlin. He's the Managing Director of Axial, and we're talking about all things when it comes to marketing your business. You're watching Business Connections Live. As always, great to have your company. Jim, are you enjoying it today? We're still on the air, by the way.
Very much so, Steve. Very much.
We've put you under pressure today, haven't we?
I've seldom felt under so much pressure in the last couple of years, Steve, than under your piercing questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Now he's smiling, you see. Can we see Jim McLaughlin smiling? There he is. There's Jim McLaughlin smiling. You're watching Business Connections Live. We'd like to thank our good friends at TubeBuddy for helping us out today and allowing us to bring this program to you for free. TubeBuddy, fantastic piece of software. TubeBuddy, the premier YouTube channel management toolkit. We were talking earlier on about how powerful YouTube is. This tool will allow you to be even more powerful. This is, without any shadow of a doubt, if you are in business and you are using YouTube to market and promote your business, then you do need TubeBuddy. First of all, let's look at some of these different tools that are here. Productivity tools that you have. Advanced video embedding, very easy to do. Bulk copier cards. You want to run a campaign across all your videos, then that's going to allow you to do it with one click. Bulk thumbnail overlays, canned responses back to people that comment on your videos. Comment filters, default upload profiles, all of that is all available from TubeBuddy. But wait, there's more. You then also have video SEO tools, rank higher in search and related areas, caption service, channel rank tracking, search tracking, tags, Tag Explorer. When you're writing those tags for your videos, they're really, really important. But of course, what do you do about it? What do you do about making certain that those tags in each of your YouTube videos are the effective, correct ones? If you're getting those wrong, you're going to be dropping down the rankings. Well, TubeBuddy will allow you to make certain, and you can do A/B testing with it as well. What else have you got? Promotion tools here. Description promotion, featured video promotion, share tracker, and research tools as well. The best time to publish, competitor scorecard, social monitor, a watch page statistics. It's all there. It's called TubeBuddy, the premier YouTube channel management toolkit. The one thing I like about it, and we kind of touched on it, if your business feels that you are gaining audience and traction, maybe you're a B2C kind of product, and you've maybe got a Facebook page, you like to publish your YouTube videos quickly onto Facebook. Well, before, YouTube would allow you to do that with one click. And then they took that away because Facebook became a competitor to YouTube when it comes to the delivering of content, delivery of video to maybe your clients and your customers. With one click, TubeBuddy will allow you to publish your videos from your YouTube channel onto your Facebook page. Got to be looked at. If you want more details about it, simply go to the Business Connections Live website, and if you work your way, look, there's Tiff Nadal. If you work your way down the page a little way past the live catch-up training production page, just there's a link, and if you follow that link, TubeBuddy will let you have a little bit of a demo on some of the features that they've got on TubeBuddy. So check it out. Go to our website at businessconnectionslive.com and do find the link for TubeBuddy. It is an incredible tool, and it's not a case of downloading the software either, for that matter. The software lives. It's a plug-in, and it plugs into Chrome. Fantastic. My guest on today's show is Jim McLaughlin, Managing Director of Axial Limited. Been talking about all sorts of different things like content, how you should be promoting your business, how you should be promoting your content. But one area that I think is really important is why honesty pays when we pitch our products and our services. We've all done it. we've oversold ourselves, we've overpromised, and perhaps maybe we live to tell the day when we underdeliver. Why is it so important in your minds, Anne? It sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
Well, I think it is. I think it is because for me in business, winning business is always interesting, but the key thing is not really to get the order. The key thing is the opportunity to build a long-term relationship. And you can't build a long-term relationship with people that don't trust you. And if you go back to the very basics on selling, one of the things that you'll learn on the first sales training courses that you ever go on are people buy from people, they buy from people they trust, and they buy from people they like. So that trust thing is really, really key. And you and I have talked earlier on about becoming a trusted partner. And that's absolutely fundamental for many companies to building long-term relationships with their clients. Well, how could you be a trusted partner if you're telling people that you can deliver something that you then fail to deliver on? And I know that when that's happened in the past, we've never seen the customers. We've never seen customers again.
Do you know, it's interesting because just sitting here listening to you, I remember for a short length of time I worked for a manufacturer, and as a manufacturer they had a dreadful trouble in actually producing the equipment that they were promising that they could produce.
Yeah.
And time scales would slip, and it didn't matter, in all good faith you would promise one thing, and then just the production schedules and what would slip, and that company did get a reputation for being unable to deliver the product.
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely catastrophic for any organisation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if those clients have somewhere else that they can go to buy a product that will do something similar, well, that's what they're going to do. Because if my business depends on it, whether it's the latest upgrade to the CRM system, whether it's the latest telephone system, and my provider can't give me that when they tell me that they'll give it to me, I'll go elsewhere.
And I suppose the situation that you've got as well is that once your reputation is tarnished, it can become very severely damaged very quickly, and it takes a long time to come back from that.
Absolutely. There's very little truer than once bitten, twice shy. And if someone's had a bad experience, and I can honestly say very few of our customers have had a bad experience, but if people feel that they've had a bad experience, whether that feeling is justified or not, it's rare that they'll go back to the same supplier.
Right off topic then, but associated with this, what should you do when you do get it wrong? I mean, for instance, we've got manufacturers out there in the press over the last couple of weeks. We have Whirlpool, we've had Creda, Hotpoint, who have all got issues with tumble dryers. And so they've got real issues that is actually really damaging the brand. And what they're not doing is they're not coming forward to actually sort of say, well, look, here's the key thing we're going to do. We're going to make it all right now.
Yeah.
Well, they're still putting the onus back on the customer. And we see that a lot of the time where VW, just a few months back, the same issue once again. They weren't very quick in coming forward to go, got that wrong.
Absolutely. And I think that you see the results of that with Toyota, Toyota became the world's #1 motor manufacturer on the back of a fantastic reputation. And then over the last 10 years, they've had a series of issues in the US market and worldwide. And Toyota don't have that reputation for credibility any longer. They're still right up there at the top, but the brand image has been severely dented, and I think that's true for all of us. So what should any of us do when something goes wrong? I think that the first thing that we need to do, if I talk about Axial, if we in the past when we've had a client who's been unhappy, the first thing to do is to sit down and really understand, why are they unhappy? What is it that we've done that hasn't matched their expectations? And in my case, I would always want to go the extra mile. So I would want to, typically what I would want to do would be to offer the client that we would continue to work for a period of time without being paid to make up for the disappointment that they've had. Whether I feel that their disappointment is our fault or not, because as far as I'm concerned, the last thing I ever want is for someone to walk away from my company saying, I had a bad experience there. Even if that costs us money, I'd be prepared to lose money rather than have somebody walking away and say, I had a bad experience.
Now, hush my mouth for saying this, but do you think sometimes the customer gets it wrong? What do you do then where the customer has made an assumption that's incorrect and that puts you, in their mind's eye, in the wrong? What do you do then to protect yourself from that?
Well, that's really going to depend. So let me answer with a very real example of a customer who felt that they had a bad experience with Axial. So when we sat down with that customer at the outset of the programme that we were going to work with them on, we pointed out to them that to get the best results, this needs to be two parties working together. You can't tell us what you want and throw that over the wall to us and wait for us to come back at the end of the campaign that we're going to run for you and throw the results back over the wall. We need to work together so that we keep you abreast of what's happening, so that if things aren't going the way you want them to go, we know at an early stage and we can make changes to deliver the results that you want to get. And absolutely fundamental when you're doing a business development campaign, as we spoke about CRMs earlier on, is you need to give us the right contact details to get to the people that you want to speak to. That client didn't give us the right contact details. They gave us a database of names of people, sometimes without even companies. So we had to go and research the contact details for those individuals. We ran a campaign and we actually delivered good results. We didn't deliver outstanding results, but given the material that we worked with, the results were very good. The client, however, was very unhappy and decided that they would never work with us again. Now, what would I do in that situation? Frankly, I'm not interested in working with that client again, because we kept our side of the bargain, they didn't keep their side of the bargain, so when they were unhappy, their unhappiness, in my eyes, wasn't justified.
So it is actually understanding it, and I think sometimes that businesses will bend over backwards for a customer who becomes unreasonable to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the relationship is a two-way relationship. It's not all about I'm selling to you, but it's reciprocal as well. It has to be.
And we talked about a relationship of trust. Trust is two-way. Trust is two-way. So if I don't trust this person that wants me to deliver services for them, either because I don't believe that they're giving me a real picture of what it is they want to take to the marketplace, and I don't want to present a false picture to the marketplace. If I don't trust them, or I've worked for them before and they haven't paid me, then I'm not likely to want to go the extra mile to make that work. If I'm working with someone who is working in good faith and something goes wrong and they're unhappy, I'll want to address their unhappiness.
And I think that's important. I think the whole thing about business is that if you are working, regardless who you are working with, be it a customer, a client, another organisation, if you're not working on a basis of trust, then what are you working on? I mean, it's got to be all about trust. Jim, we have whistled through the programme and we're practically running out of time. As always, we do ask you for a few takeaways, straight down camera. Number one, so do sit back, relax, take it easy. Just say who you are, where you're from, of course, and just the key takeaways from today's programme. We'd really appreciate that. I'll bring my laptop screen down just a teeny bit. Take a breath. The airwaves, Jim, are all yours.
Hi, I'm Jim McLaughlin from Axial. We're a business development company. What we've spoken about today is really around the importance of getting the right information to the right people. That's why content is king. It's increasingly important to be able to create content that will give people a reason to believe that they'll get value from the contact that you make with them and from the dialogue that you want to engage them in. If they don't see that there's going to be value, they're not likely to want to engage in that dialogue. Because content is really important, it's also important that you have subject matter experts within your organisation so that they can continue the good work that you've done with the content that you've created and continue to build on your image as a trusted partner and a provider of valuable information. If you've got a CRM system, the most important thing about making a CRM system work for you is to make sure that you have the right processes in place and the right incentives for people within your organisation to use that CRM system properly, and penalties for people that don't, because if you don't have the right information in your CRM system, you can't get the right results from it. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, honesty always pays in every business relationship. Don't oversell your product, your service, or yourself. Be absolutely honest about what it is that you can deliver, and then make sure that you can deliver that and perhaps a little bit more. That's the way to build trust.
Jim McLaughlin, absolutely fantastic. It's been a real insight today. And what I liked about it as well, we had the opportunity to challenge each other on our different views and still come out of it as friends.
Absolutely,
Steve. Now, the thing that you very rarely do is actually give us a big smile, and we like a big smile occasionally on the programme.
Absolutely.
Jim McLaughlin there, Managing Director of Axial Limited, and really a number of things that all of us as business owners need to be thinking about. Just take a look, just a step back for a moment. Look at the way you're using your CRM system at the moment. Are you using it just as a machine to mail documents out, so it's always sort of telling and selling, or are you using it to create a relationship with your customers? Are you engaging them with the videos that you produce? Are you getting out there with your blogs? Are people getting a real feel for your business? Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program today. Thank you very much.
A pleasure as ever, Steve.
Thank you very much indeed. Jim McLaughlin, Managing Director of Axial Limited, on this edition of Business Connections Live. And we hope you enjoyed today's show. We're not quite finished yet though, Jim. We've got a little bit more to do, a little bit of housekeeping just before we walk out the door. So next week's show is going to be our Easter special. We've got a compilation of hints and tips from all our guests that we've had on the programme so far this year. So some fascinating insights. We'll hear a bit maybe from the CBI. We'll hear a little bit about presentation techniques, to name just a couple of topics that we're going to be talking about in the next edition of the programme. Coming up in the next few weeks, Browen Williamson, Managing Director of Adams Marketing Agency, or Bro as we like to call it, with some great advice on SEO. Now, I met this lady a couple of weeks back, or a couple of days back in fact. What a real insight into what companies should be doing when it comes to looking at SEO on their websites, and what you need to be thinking about when you're looking at your website, and what you're showing and giving to your viewers when they come to your website. It's going to be a real insight, that one. Looking forward to it. Managing Director of Adams Marketing Agency. Great advice, SEO. And while we're talking about getting out there and using your social media, some productivity tips, growth hacks and lead generation tactics with an old friend of the programmes. That's going to be Dan Spicer. He's going to be back on the show as well. Don't forget, if you'd like to sponsor the program, or you'd like to be an advertiser on the website, all you got to do is just come along and contact us on the website. We'll give you all the details right now, if we may. Here we go. You can contact us by simply emailing us at studio@businessconnectionslive.com. If you want, you can always call us. We love chatting to you. And we understand that when people pick the phone up, we realise that sometimes it could be a sales call. But do you know what? Out of that sales call, instead of us saying no, we'll listen to you. We'll talk to you, and who knows, we could end up doing business together, both ways. 01784 256 777 is our telephone number, and if you want to follow our stream of consciousness, then you can on Twitter at BCL Business TV. Once again, Jim, it's been a pleasure. Are we friends?
Well, I very much hope so, Steve.
I very hope so as well. Do you know, I've really enjoyed it today.
Me too.
It's been a real insight, and I think the thing that's so important is it is all about building relationships, engaging, and to do that you need the right content out there, don't you?
Absolutely.
Because do you know what? Roll those credits. Content has got to be king, hasn't it? Till we do it all again next Monday, we look forward to your company. We've got some great shows lined up for you. Do keep watching Business Connections Live, and don't forget there's over 200 hours of free programming out there for you to watch for your business. See you next week. Bye bye now.